maybe missing one person. We're just going to get started here. We're going to get started. I think, Nathan, you want to get us started, and I'll take the roll. All right. So we've got we've got everyone on Zoom now. I think we're now streaming live. So this is the Crisis Intervention Strategy Task Force first meeting. It's 1 p.m. on August 23rd. The agenda has been posted online. Again, this is a virtual meeting because we're meeting virtually. We're going to take a 10-minute break to allow for public comment. The public is able to see this through our live stream, council.nola.gov, and on YouTube. I think I can take a roll call before that. I'm going to briefly review the agenda. We'll take that break and we'll get started. We'll take I think the 10-minute is the minimum time we can take for that public comment break. Good afternoon, everyone. So with the roll call, I'm going to start. If you can, just unmute yourselves and acknowledge, and so we can make sure we can get on the record who is here and who is not, and we'll get started. Appointed by Council President Moreno, Danielle Metz. Okay, Danielle. And if they join later, we'll make a note of it. From at-large Galapion's office, Barksdale Hornstein. Hortenstein, I'm sorry.
It's Hortenstein, but I'm present.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You can all correct me as I mispronounce and mangle each of your names in order. Dr. Deidre Hayes.
I'm here.
Dr. Hayes, nice to see you. Sade Dumas.
I'm here.
Thank you, Sade. Alexa Peterson-Burge.
Present.
Kathleen Whalen.
I'm here.
Caroline Ann Newton-Schexnayder. It's a tough one. I thought I got that one. Shelby Flynn.
Here.
Nice, Shelby. How are you? Dr. Avegno.
I'm here.
Hi, Dr. Avegno. How are you? Dr. Emily Nichols.
Good afternoon, President.
Hi, Dr. Nichols. And Lieutenant Monaco from NOPD.
Good afternoon. I'm here.
Hi, Lieutenant. How are you? So at this time, did I get? Oh, Tonchel Ward. I'm sorry. I've got one more. I apologize. And
I'm here.
And Director Morris, I see you're here. Thank you.
And
So thank you, everybody. So I think we've got almost everybody here. We're going to go ahead and read the agenda, and then we're going to take a 10-minute public comment break. So the public can comment on our website, council.nola.gov. You can go to the Crisis Intervention Strategy Task Force meeting, and there is a button there that says Submit Public Comment, where you may make a comment. After this break, we'll be able to proceed. So the agenda today, we're going to have some opening remarks from Council President Moreno. We'll have a presentation from the New Orleans Health Department on the ongoing work with the crisis response framework and the gaps and resources we have here in New Orleans. We'll then proceed to elect a task force chair. The next item will propose a regular meeting schedule, dates, and then if there's any new business, we'll consider it and then proceed to adjourn. So with that, I'm going to pause now for a 10-minute public comment break. Again, you can comment on council.nola.gov, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes. Okay, guys, we're just about to get back here. Thank you for indulging us on that public comment break. We're about to get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the first item on the agenda. It's not a voting item, so I think we can get started with that. Council President Moreno is about to make some remarks regarding the Crisis Strategy Task Force, and then we're going to get started with our agenda. So as soon as Councilmember Moreno is ready, we're going to let her get started.
Thank you, Andrew, and welcome to all of you. I really appreciate all of you taking the time because I know how busy all of you are to be part of this important task force. This is the Crisis Intervention Strategy Task Force. It was created by the New Orleans City Council, as you all know. And I just want to give you what it says in the resolution of what this task force is asked to do during your work. And so it says in the resolution that this advisory committee is hereby established to provide recommendations concerning the implementation of a crisis response program for Orleans Parish. The advisory task force, hereafter referred to as Crisis Intervention Strategy Task Force, shall be established as follows. And then, of course, all the different appointees are mentioned after that, and that's what brought you all here. So you have a really important role. The reason why the City Council believed it was so important to do this is because we strongly feel that those who are in crisis need to receive the proper type of treatment. And we also believe that we must best utilize NOPD manpower hours for serious situations happening within our city. So we believe that creating these types of intervention teams really accomplish both of those goals. So that will be your task. And so once again, I am just very thankful to all of you for taking the time and once, as I said before, I know how busy all of you are to do this very important work for the people of our city. And I'm very appreciative, and I know that you all will do a great job. And I just thank you. So with that, Andrew, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Council President. So what we're going to do next, we're going to allow the Health Department to provide us a short presentation on some of the work that they've been doing in partnership with some of our other public safety agencies. Dr. Avegno, I'm going to attempt to allow you to share your screen, which I'm sure I can do because I'm so capable on this.
Actually, I can already do it,
Okay.
Andrew, so
Perfect.
I'll just do it.
Go ahead. Thank you,
Hi, everybody. Good to see you all, those I know, which is most of you, and those I don't. I'm really excited to be part of this. And we just thought at the Health Department, we've been doing a lot of thinking about this for the last really over a year. We started thinking about it right before COVID, and it never left our mind, although other things took precedence. But we're excited to sort of share what we've learned and then learn from everyone on this task force and come to figure out what's the best path forward for New Orleans. So let me just do that. So, consistent with other, there's a lot of names for these types of programs that we're looking at. Consistent with what many other cities are doing, we tend to refer to it as alternative dispatch, but it can also go, crisis intervention, but making sure we're all talking about the same thing. So we've been internally working and chatting with several other departments about the need for this. And I think that's really the important thing to remember. Everyone, whether it's NOPD, EMS, OPCD, everyone internally really believes that this is crucial. It is a gap that needs to be filled, and that we need to work to figure out how to do that. When I talk to other cities that are implementing similar programs, it really makes me feel quite good to be a New Orleanian, because many of them have said, oh yeah, we really wanted to do this, but boy, the police department was totally against it, or boy, we don't have a really sophisticated 911 system. And so we really have all the pieces in place. It's just putting the puzzle together in the way that makes most sense. So just a little bit of a landscape analysis, and I apologize, this is not exhaustive. There are a lot of programs that are not mentioned here, and that's not intentional. It's just trying to be as high level and as brief as possible. So specifically, we're going to talk about the parts of our system that exist currently: OPCD, the NOPD CIT officer program, Metropolitan, Via Link, and then some things that are happening on the national and state level that I'm not sure everybody might be aware of, and also what we see as the major gaps and shortcomings. Obviously, there's more than what's going to be presented here. So I'm really proud, and not just saying this because Director Morris is on the call, to say that we have a really sophisticated and well-trained 911, 311 integrated call center. They do terrific work under very, very difficult circumstances, particularly in the last year and a half. And so that is an asset that we have that I'm hopeful we can continue to build upon. You know, they generally field most of the questions for someone in crisis or someone with mental health issue. And all they can do is route to who they have available, which right now is generally either NOPD or sometimes New Orleans EMS. They have specific protocols that help them really figure out what is a danger of violent behavior, and so would maybe need a different response. And because of that, we've got very good data on the thousands of calls that probably are very well suited to a non-law enforcement response here in New Orleans. If NOPD right now is called to a scene, ideally their crisis intervention team is deployed to that scene that has been identified as having a mental health issue. The CIT program has been going for about 6 years, and all officers during their training will receive some of it, but a good percentage of patrol officers elect to do an additional 40-hour certification. And so they have specific higher level training in behavioral health issues. As Chief Ferguson, I think, would tell you, that does not mean that they are trained behavioral health providers. It just means that they have additional training to deal with these sorts of issues. And I can say, as a practicing emergency physician for the last 15 plus years, I've really watched the evolution, and the addition of the CIT program has really changed in a positive way the way officers deal with all sorts of individuals that they are bringing in for care. It is considered a best practice. And I think we've been at the leading edge of this. So this is certainly a program that is important, and that Chief Ferguson has pledged to continue, and that will continue. But again, it is not really what we're talking about, because what we're talking about is an alternative to law enforcement. Most of you know Metropolitan Human Services District, who is the probably the largest provider of outpatient behavioral health services in our region, as well as for St. Bernard and Plaquemines. They do have a crisis response team, a small team, that's someone calling their specific hotline. And it's generally someone whose family is a client of Metropolitan or who's familiar with their system in some way. They do have a hotline that someone can call and get advice and sort of triage over the phone, but it's not tied into the larger 911 system. And most people, when they're confronted with someone with a behavioral health challenge or in crisis, don't know this number to call, and so we're going to default to call 911. So it's really not a well-linked system. Out of some of the early discussions with NOPD, OPCD, MCART, and others, we've put together what you saw announced last week, which is a small pilot operating out of the 3rd district, in which 911 calls that meet the definition of nonviolent mental health issues are triaged first to this on-call crisis response team, and they are able to speak to the individuals on the phone and figure out the next best course of action. This is a very, very new pilot. And I know Director Morris could speak a little more to it. There's only been a handful of calls identified in the past week. We feel that that's okay, because if this is something that we're going to learn from, it's best to start off small rather than start too big and not be able to handle it. But everyone is very excited about the potential for this pilot and how it can inform our work here on the task force. Most of you know Via Link, which is a 24/7 counseling line. It's 211 in most places for a variety of issues that people might have. it is likely going to be for the state, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, when 988, that becomes 988 and 988 becomes operational. And that brings us to, what is the state planning to do? So for the past year or so, the State Office of Behavioral Health is working also on trying to implement a more holistic and systemic approach to behavioral health crisis. It includes several of the things that we're talking about and we're interested in New Orleans. Number one, a mobile crisis team, what they're calling behavioral health urgent care centers, which we might call a crisis receiving center. Other kinds of crisis support and stabilization services in the community, and really just integrating a very, very fragmented system statewide. They're looking to do this for adults first with Medicaid, because they're imagining it might be reimbursable, not yet planning to do it with children, but I think that is, they would like to do it with children, but they're tackling adults first. So we've been in contact with them, getting an idea of what they're envisioning that looks like for the state. They understand very well that New Orleans doesn't necessarily have the time or desire to wait on state plans. And so we would like to, put our plan in early, before theirs, but then integrate as needed. So 988 nationally is something that I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot more about. In July, the FCC established that 988 would be, like 911, the phone number for Americans in crisis to connect with a variety of behavioral health services over the phone. There's a charge to make it operational nationwide by next July. Each state is really charged with the way that they're going to do it themselves, which makes it a little challenging because the concern is there's going to be a patchwork approach, but there's definitely a need for this, and it's certainly moving things in the right direction. The goal is to have it integrated as much as possible into the existing systems of care, but make it a much more appropriate triage system to get folks who are not really being served right now in our current crisis system to the help that they need. So I'm sure everybody on this call recognizes the many, many gaps in our behavioral health system. And these aren't just because of COVID, and these aren't new. These are historic and generational for in many cases. One of the major ones is that if everyone's calling 911 for their emergency, but 911 is not connected to the appropriate disposition for an emergency, then it just doesn't work. And so, 911 doesn't have the staff or the training to be able to talk people through their mental health crisis. If a telephone is all that's needed, they also don't have the ability to deploy anyone other than police, fire, EMS at the moment. So there's the two things don't meet. There's also, any of you like myself who work nights and in emergency settings know that there is a dearth of behavioral health resources at night, and your limited options during the day become even more limited. And so hospital emergency departments in particular, which are already strained to the limit, are the primary location for people in crisis in the middle of the night when there's really nothing to help support getting them what they need until the morning. We all know that there's many players in the behavioral health system, but they're not really connected, and there's very many challenges with handing off between the inpatient, the outpatient, the community systems. And then, of course, we have for far too long over-relied on law enforcement and criminal justice responses, which are often inappropriate to the situation and make things worse to solve our behavioral health crises. So when we're talking about building a system where we would send an alternative to law enforcement, what does this look like around the country? The earliest example of this is probably the CAHOOTS program that most of you are familiar with out of Oregon. But in the last few years, you've seen leading cities tackle this in their own way. So whether that's Rochester, San Francisco, Austin, Denver, those are some of the ones that we've been really researching to see what are the common themes that can be informative for us. Generally, what works in other places is the team is a two-person crisis response personnel with a linkage to the 911 system in their city. Sometimes it's a medic and a crisis worker. Sometimes it's a social worker and a counselor. Sometimes it is a peer and a trained behavioral health person. So what makes most sense for us is certainly something that we're excited to talk about, but there's a lot of good models, whichever way we decide to go. They're capable of a rapid response. This is not take a number, I'll call you back in the morning. This is a true 24/7 in the car, can be there within a short period of time. And while the data overwhelmingly suggests that these interactions are safe, there is a very, very, very small percentage for which, when the team arrives on the scene, it's more dangerous than perhaps was initially indicated. And so just having that ability to have backup on hand, not that they're showing up at every call, if something seems to be emerging is important, and it's a hallmark of other programs. Besides the alternative dispatch in the sort of linkage to our 911 system, which we feel like are the most immediate needs, there are many other needs that we've identified that should be of no surprise to anyone. Right now, people in crisis who need emergency stabilization are generally taken to the emergency department, which is not the right place for them. Ideally, a 24/7 center outside of a hospital, able to do short-term stabilization with wraparound services for behavioral health issues when you need urgent care is what I think we would like to see here in New Orleans. Baton Rouge just opened such a facility. Several of us had the opportunity to go and tour it. And really the model is quite impressive, what they're doing, and hopefully will be successful and serve as something good that we can learn from just 60 miles down the road. We all know that we need a long-term inpatient psychiatric facility that has not existed in New Orleans since Katrina. And certainly there's a lot of energy and hope looking at repurposing the phase 3 building at the jail away from criminal justice towards this really, really fundamental need. That is a much more expensive and resource-laden intervention that we would like, we all want to keep working on while we're getting the other parts of this system hopefully up and running. And so really, ideally, this is what a good connected system looks like: a robust emergency call system able to triage, and that's 911, 311 with 988 perhaps as it comes online, with trained behavioral health non-law enforcement personnel 24/7, with a crisis receiving center that is comprehensive and able to stabilize individuals, keep them out of the emergency department, out of the criminal justice system, expanded short and long-term hospitalization options that is all connected with a robust outpatient system of care. And that is it. So I will stop sharing my screen if I can.
Thank you so much, Dr. Avegno. I wanted to make sure we made some space for everyone who's on the call. If you have any comments or suggestions or at this time, I want to make sure you all have a time for that, because the next item of business obviously will be discussing the election of a task force chair. And I can discuss that process. We're just going to use Robert's rules. Someone should nominate somebody else. And then if there's a second, we'll have a vote on that person. And after that, if that vote is successful, that person's chair, there'll be a discussion, of course, within that. But before we get there, are there any comments for Dr. Avegno at this time? Okay, good. So thank you so much, Dr. Avegno. That was really helpful table setting for this conversation. I appreciate all the work y'all are doing to bring forward some of this information about what the system looks like today and where we could go from there. So from there, I'm going to start opening up like we said, the third item of business is electing a task force chair. And let me describe a little bit of how the process will work, not only just electing a chair, but from here on forward. This will hopefully be the last meeting where I am being acting chair. I'm going to allow the group to manage and their own conversations, at their own agenda. I think it's important that the professionals and our members of the community that are on this call set the table, set the conversation, and have set this path forward. It's not for me to do. It's not for the council president's office. It's for y'all to do, because it's most important that everyone in the community, and also obviously the professionals we have on board here, help guide this conversation towards a successful implementation of something I think we all want to see. So with that, like I said, we'll elect the chair. After that, I'm going to try to allow the chair to run the rest of the meeting. And then from there on, we'll have the chair help set the meeting times. I'll obviously be here to help staff, as well as Nathan from our central staff, and then eventually some other central staffers, but also with all y'all who are from the city. I'm sure y'all have staffers that can help us to make sure we continue to move this forward. So with that, I'm going to open the conversation for nominations. And then obviously with such a nomination, if there's a second, then we'll proceed to vote on that person in time. So with that, I'll let it open for nominations.
I'd like to nominate Director Morris from OPCD as the chair.
Director Morris has been nominated. Is there a second for Director Morris?
I'll second.
Dr. Nichols, you've seconded Director Morris. I'm going to open the conversation and let Dr. Vegno discuss her motion, and then we'll have a vote if the body so chooses.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity. And Tyrell, I didn't mean to surprise you, but certainly having worked with Director Morris in conceptualizing this and understanding that really he is at the critical point between inpatient, outpatient, emergency, and crisis services, I think makes him sort of a good neutral party, but one that also sees the entire landscape. So I thought, and we did not have this discussion beforehand, so I thought he would hopefully be willing to serve, and would be a good person.
Thank you, Dr. Vegno. While I fix my microphone here, I apologize. Are there any other conversation about the nomination of Director Morris? The floor is open.
Yeah, I think that if there is going to be a model of having a city official as a chair, we should follow a co-chair model and have a partner be, or a co-chair be a member of the community. I think that in making sure that conversations that began in community and started in community, which has really, brought us here, stay rooted in that leadership. So I do believe that if we're going to follow a model of having a city official as a chair, we should do a co-chair model and have a community member partner.
Hey, Andrew, can I provide a point of clarity for the group?
Sure.
Yeah, just I absolutely appreciate that, and I think are you say city official or government official? And the reason there's clear delineation needs to occur is that OPCD is technically an independent state agency. We are not a city agency, so I just wanted to just make sure I understand the request in its entirety.
This is y'all's group, so if there's a co-chair situation, that's totally fine. That's up to you. I think all I would, from my limited knowledge of Robert's rules, or at least my understanding, I think you just have to either allow for a modification of that, an amendment to that motion. If it's friendly, we can accept it. We can proceed with that way. We can nominate a chair and co-chair. That's perfectly fine. It's up to y'all.
Yeah, hey, this is Sade. I actually love the model of having community and non-community together leading. There's been a lot of work in the community with over 500 community members educated on the issue, 1,000 community members signing a petition to support this. And I think this is the perfect opportunity for government and community to work together to make sure this serves all of our entities in a really good way. So I am pro co-chair model.
I second. No,
Do we need a motion?
So what I would suggest is if someone could make a motion to append Director Morris with a co-chair, then we could just sort of consider everything at once, and then we can have that. That would be my recommendation, but you all take it.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think we need to amend the original motion to include to include a co-chair model and open the floor back up for nomination for co-chair.
That's great. Someone nominate a co-chair and we'll amend that motion.
I nominate Sade.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. So my understanding of the motion on the floor is that there is a motion to name Director Morris and Sade Dumas co-chairs of the Crisis Intervention Strategy Task Force. There can be a discussion now, a further discussion. If not, someone can call the vote.
I say let's call it.
Yeah, I move to call the vote.
Great. So with that, there's been a motion. It's been seconded. The motion on the table is that Sade Dumas and Director Tyrell Morris will be co-chairs of the Crisis Intervention Strategy Task Force. I'm going to ask for this, since I don't have a voting machine, I'm going to ask for a yays and nays. All those in favor will say yay. All those in opposition will say nay. All those in favor say nay now. Yay now.
Yay.
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 You're muted, Andrew.
That's great. I think we got a unanimous vote. So I'm now going to turn the meeting over to the chair and co-chair of the Crisis Intervention Strategy Task Force. Congratulations.
Thank you all very much. They say Monday's full of surprises, but it definitely is work that is important to me professionally, personally, and all of us here. Particularly OPCD, we know we sit in a very unique place, but we cherish that responsibility greatly. Our mission at OPCD is very simple: to get the right people to the right place at the right time, better than anyone else in the world. And I think it's time that we evaluate who the right people are. And making sure that we are staying true to that mission. We are excited about the pilot that's in place right now, but as Dr. Avegno alluded to, there's been many conversations that this is not going to meet the needs completely. And I look forward to aiding this task force along with the co-chair us to a place where we see some real results for the people who need us the most in their most desperate time of need. And with that, I'll turn over to the co-chair for some opening remarks.
Thank you. Monday is full of surprises. I'm really looking forward to this. As Dr. Avegno said, there are alternatives a lot of us are looking into for the phase 3 jail building, and really creating a continuum of care for people outside of the carceral system so that our community members can get the support needed in community and not be over criminalized for it. So I'm really excited about working on this project. I'm really excited for that piece in this legislation to continue engaging the community, because we really want to make sure this serves all entities.
Thank you, Sade. And I think Andrew, now is when we talk about the other agenda items.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'll try to let guide you all the best I can. So the next agenda item is the proposed regular meeting dates. I expect that not everybody knows their full calendar going forward, but at least I'd appreciate if everyone could set at least 1 or 2 next meetings or a regularity. And then what we'll do is we can work to put forward a schedule. The co-chairs can submit a schedule. We can get that online for everyone, so we have at least regularity, because obviously, as Council President mentioned, we want to get this done as efficaciously as possible. So.
Absolutely. So, and Andrew, just talking, just knowing the things that are happening and reviewing Dr. Avegno's presentation, there is some significant work that's happening right now. My recommendation to the group, and again, open for discussion, the co-chair can feel free to disagree or make another recommendation, but my initial gut was to say put them on a monthly cadence to at least evaluate the data of pilots. We're about to go through the budget process, so we understand that some of these elements are in that as well. And so my recommendation would be that we meet on a monthly cadence, with the first meeting being at the end of September. But again, that is totally up for debate or, from anybody else in the group.
I think monthly meetings are appropriate. In the legislation passed, there were 3 subpoints that this group is tasked to do within 6 months. So within meaning not longer than, and also we don't have to wait until 6 months. So I'm really interested in what it looks like to establish subcommittees for those points and to meet in between those meetings, because I have a little anxiety of 6 meetings to get this work done.
Yes, I agree. I just think the first one, to kind of get it organized, I think there needs to be a quick, Sade, you and I probably need to meet for a couple hours, just understand process and rules. And I'd also want to make sure that you can bring you for a tour to OPC, you can kind of see the experience, and so you can speak with certainty about what's happening today. But Andrew, are we okay with asking the group to set the first meeting? I think Mondays seem to work on September 27th.
What I'll do, Director, is the only thing I have to do is clear the chamber. I will suggest that, Director Morris, somebody will have to be in the chamber proceeding in order to live stream it. So let's tentatively set that just to make sure, and I'll check with staff here to make sure that date works so we don't have any conflicts with any other groups. I see right now there's nothing on our chamber calendar at that day. So I think that should work.
And I definitely can be the one. I can come to the council chambers and do the official presiding. No worries.
That sounds fine.
Do we either vote on that, or are we just?
No, I don't think that's a voting item. You can, unless we need to. But I think we'll set the next meeting, and I'll tentatively get an invite out to everyone, just like I did this time, and then y'all can take it from there in terms of the rest of the schedule.
Okay. And the time will be the same as this one. Maybe it seemed to work for everybody. I'll take that as a yes from Andrew.
It seems to work for the chamber, so we can make it work on our end. Seems like everyone is nodding in agreement.
Cool. I guess the next item would be new business.
So I would just jump in and ask that if you and Sade could, even during this public meeting, discuss when you might be able to meet and shoot out some emails so we can start circulating some discussion, if that's possible, prior to that first meeting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we'll provide that opportunity for everybody to kind of get a good landscape. We've got to be very careful that we don't have a majority in a room without public notice. But we can definitely find ways to achieve the goal and still in compliance with the law.
And Director Morris, what I'll do is I'll have our counsel write up a very short summary of public meeting law, just so everyone recognizes the real thing we can't do. Y'all can't discuss the business that you would otherwise discuss here in this public meeting via email or something like that, like having a walking quorum. Other than that, if you want to discuss scheduling, that's fine via email, just no business. And we'll write up a short paragraph so everyone knows. I just want to make sure that the public has an opportunity to comment and hear from y'all in person or in a Zoom circumstance.
Okay. And Andrew, I think I can get it from the meeting invite, but it's a simple spreadsheet of contact information from everybody to Sade and I.
I'm going to provide, yes, sir. I'm going to provide that after the end of this meeting. I'll provide an email, and what will happen after this meeting is the list of your names will appear on our website as well, so that you all have a place to click on and see where y'all are and direct people. If people ask who's on the task force, et cetera, it will be posted on the website. We're working on that right now.
Got it. All right, with that, I guess the next agenda item would take a motion to adjourn. Or we could sit here all day.
A motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn from Kathleen. Is there a second?
Seconded.
All right. And Andrew, do we vote to adjourn, or is a second good enough?
You are supposed to vote. Yes, sir.
Okay, so all yays that want to adjourn, say yay.
Yay.
Great. And thank you. I guess the meeting is adjourned. And I will say for Zoom, for the next time, we'll have polls up so we can formally cast a vote so the public can see how everyone is voting. But thank you all for your time today. Sade, I'm excited to get to know you and work with you as a co-chair. And you all be safe and stay cool. It's hot. It's a hot one today.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.